Who wants to play find the oil leak? So this guy had to do the same thing to this engine that I did to the one recently, where I had to change the cam. He did that to this, but he didn't do a good job because the oil is leaking out from the sump. I don't know why. I don't know if he tore the gasket somewhere when he put it in, or if he just didn't torque down the bolts tight enough. I noticed it was real wet in the back because I wiped it up so that I could find it. I haven't really noticed an area yet that's really wet, super wet. I can kind of see an area where it's, but it's not really easy to determine. What I didn't do was I forgot to wipe under the chassis. That's all probably soaked with oil too. So there's some fresh spots again, even at there. But like right here behind the starter, I can't see part of that gasket. There's a whole gap there. So anyway, I have to, because I have to do this right. This cannot be leaking oil when I sell it. The 4 bolts, got to unhook the wires, and the engine's got to come back out. I have to unbolt that sump, take that RTV right stuff, take a bead of it along the entire stretch of the gasket, put the sump back down, and then torque the bolts properly, and then it won't leak oil anymore. Plus, it's a good idea that I look in there and make sure he did it right, because if he has that timing gear off by 1 dot, this thing's not going to run right. Remember I showed you guys that dot to dot? If you don't have that thing right on the other dot, it will not run right. You can't be, if you're off by 1 tooth, it'll throw everything at a time. And then you'll have an engine that it'll start, but it'll be popping out the carburetor and all kinds of crazy stuff. And 1 muffler bolt's missing. That's no big deal. I have tons of these. And I noticed when he took the valve cover off, he used some kind of weird, I don't know what this stuff is, Play-Doh-y stuff that's mushy. RTV gets hard when it dries. This stuff, I don't know what he did, but I guess I'm gonna have to pop the head gasket and re-RTV that. They used to use a head gasket for this, and then they stopped. They went to just using RTV, which is fine, you know, because it makes it easier. You don't have to worry about waiting for a gasket. For the sump, technically, you're really supposed to have a gasket because there's supposed to be a tiny bit of a gap to help everything mesh. Okay, on certain engines, they call for a gasket. It gives it a little bit more of a gap that's necessary. On some, you can get away with it. I know on the Kohler Command engine, there is no gasket. It's just RTV. But that was that issue. That was him from him repairing that. So that was what he did. Because the cam went bad. He replaced it. And this engine wasn't even 4 years old when that happened. It happened, I guess, last fall. This engine would have been still 3 years and some odd months old. Because you can see right here, year 2018. And it was built on April of 2018, so it's exactly 4 years old. So that's really sad that these machines now you can't even get 4 years out of them before they start breaking down. And then the other main issue is, according to him, the transmission. I looked down in there. They consider this a hydro. It's not really a hydro. Some consider what they call it as a poor man's hydro. All that is in there is a Cvt transmission. It's basically like a regular manual transmission with a pulley that, when it goes faster and faster, it comes closer together, squeezing the belt tighter, and that's what makes it go faster. Okay, it's not like a real hydro with a hydro pump, you know, a real hydrostatic drive with a disengage. This doesn't have any of that. This is your typical MTD, run-of-the-mill. They're on all of them. except for a higher end. If you buy an MTD with a higher end real hydro, then that's a different story. But most of them, if they have this F&R, it's just the poor man's hydro is basically what it's called. He said there was an issue with it. At 4 years old, I'm skeptical of that. It could be. Even if it is, I'm pretty sure I have this transmission. In fact, I might even have more than one. I see a couple rough marks on the pulley. See that? So, I don't know. He tucked the belt in. The one area back here, it's off, but that's probably just from him tucking it in. Maybe it did just fall off track. The belt's in excellent condition now. At 4 years old, a belt that thick shouldn't be in trouble. I've taken apart machines that were 20 years old and the belts were still pretty good. So, that's the thing that's actually going to have to be figured out. And then a quick wash and she'll be clean. It's funny how grass got up in here like this. I'm just going to have to pop these lenses, get that out, clean in there like I always do. One tiny little crack. But other than that, once this is cleaned up, it's going to be like a brand new machine all over again. But it's not an AYP Craftsman, it's an MTD. The only thing they did when Craftsman name went to MTD, because I guess MTD bought the Craftsman name from AYP or HOP when HOP separated from Sears, when Sears sold that asset, because it was theirs, it was Sears. MTD must have said, we want rights to that hood style that you had so that we can make our machines look like yours did, so that we can fool consumers into thinking that they're still the same machines. Because at first glance, you wouldn't know. The typical consumer that doesn't work on these all the time wouldn't know that this is different than the one I worked on in, what was that, late November, early December. You wouldn't know. The one I worked on was a genuine Sears unit. It had a plastic transmission, but otherwise it was a good machine. This is an MTD. Alright, this was sold at Lowe's. This is not a Sears unit. Okay? That's the big difference. So, for you guys just getting started, that's how you can tell. Alright, the one I had was a T2200. The 2200 was a Sears unit. This is a T1700. That's MTD. The other main way you can figure out, well, also the deck. This is an MTD deck. The AYP Sears decks, you know what they look like. I've shown them a million times. Another easy way is the number. MTDs start off as 247. AYP HOP starts off as 917. Even my machine from 1995, it starts off 917. Always. Okay? That's how you'll know if it's an AYP, HOP, Roper. It's going to say 917 period. There's one more out there. Murray made stuff that was made for Sears. They had their own number. I think it starts out 4 with a 4. I think it's like 476 or something like that. That's Murray. They made the rear engine riders. They made the snow blowers for a long time. And then Husqvarna did make a couple Sears snowblowers at the very end. They weren't very good. They looked good, but they weren't very good. And now the Husqvarna snowblowers are also being sold at Lowe's. Sears is done. There's only a couple Sears left in the entire country. I think there's a Sears outlet near Jersey City. And then the website's still up, the Sears website, and the Sears Parts Direct site is still up, which is nice because you can go on that website, type in this model number, and you can look up the manual, the parts specs, and everything for almost all their machines. Some of them are starting to disappear, but they used to have, you could look up, they might have made, I don't know, 500,000 different machines. You type in that number on that SearsPartsDirect.com website, and boom, it would pop up with a manual, a parts schematic, and everything. See how it says assembled in the USA of US and global components now? Because look, it looks really pretty, but it's cheesy as hell. These things are cheesy as hell now. He had this wheel off because this bolt's loose. So I don't know what. I guess he did something. Must have went wrong on the trans, or something hopefully minor went wrong on the trans and he couldn't figure it out. So I'm gonna have to look into it. But that's the situation with that. Here's that bagger frame. I don't think I showed this very clearly on YouTube, but this thing was in really bad shape. It flew off my truck on a highway, a 3-lane highway, and I was going 80, 85 miles an hour. There were 3 cars directly behind me. I saw it go because I saw in my back, my driver rear view mirror, exactly when it went. So it was a good thing I knew when it went, so at least I knew where to look. But when I got to it, because I had to go up to the next exit, get off, you know, make a left, get back on, go west, go down one exit, get off, you know, make a left, get back on, go east again. And then when I got to the area where I knew it fell off, I had to slow down and look. I was in the fast lane. I was expecting this bag to be on the shoulder in the fast lane. You know where this bag was? It was on the shoulder of the slow lane. So from it flying off my truck, it flew, got hit by at least one car, run over by one car, at least one, if not more than one, and ended up all the way on the shoulder of the slow lane. And it's a miracle it survived, but it was in terrible shape. I mean, it was bent in lots of areas, but especially around here, it was all bent the hell up. But I managed to do a pretty good job. It took almost 2 hours of sticking in the vise, crushing the metal back, you know, taking hammers, hitting it, and every time you hit one area, another spot would go out of whack. And then, you know, taking pliers and stuff and crushing the metal and getting it back into, you know, to where it is now. So it's pretty damn close. It's not perfect. You'll never get it perfect, but it's pretty close. I mean, you could see minor areas where it's not perfectly straight. And I'm not going to mess with it again, because you go to straighten this area and then this area gets kicked back off again. So I'm done. It's good where it is. You can see it's slightly, most of it's going to be hidden. This area was all screwed up. This pretty much looks stock again. I just touched it up with the paint. Once the bag goes on it, you're pretty much not going to notice. And I've already tested it. It sits on there functional. So as long as the bag does what it's supposed to do, we're good. I've got the needle and thread ready to go. I'm going to sew this shut in a couple of minutes. Right? And then after I'm done sewing this shut, I'm going to take hot soap and water with purple power and a brush, and I'm going to scrub this clean and get all these black marks off. That's rubber marks from tires. From the looks of it, I'm going to guess one car. Maybe 2? I don't know. It could have been hit by 2-3 cars. I don't know. I just saw it fly off. I was already, you know, 0.2 of a mile ahead by the time the thing hit the ground. You know, there was a station wagon in the center lane going 85, and he kept going faster and faster, and I was in the fast lane, and I knew I was going to have to get off soon. So I was ready to go speed up to get, you know, around him, and that's when it grabbed it. But under normal circumstances, when you put a mower in the back of a pickup truck, you would put it in this way, right? And even if the bag was on it, it would be like this, and the wind wouldn't be able to grab at it. But it had to go on this way, okay? So I had the bag on it like this, and the wind was able to grab at it because it's just two little metal tabs to hold it in place. It grabbed it and pulled it off because the tractor was up in the front area, and then the mower was in the back on the side. You saw it from the video I made showing the stuff in there. Normally the mower would have been up here facing forward, and you wouldn't have to worry about it, because plus this blocks the wind. The wind goes like this. Alright? When you're flying at a high speed, it goes. So once you get back here, this is where you're getting the most resistance from the wind. So it took it. If I wasn't going that fast, it probably wouldn't have. But either way, I should have had that bag either off, up in front of the tractor, down in the floor. But I really didn't want to put it in the truck to get it dirty. But you know what? This truck's starting to get scratches on it. It's not even a year old. I haven't even had this truck a year already, and I'm starting to notice they're minor scratches, so I don't know if it's on purpose, where they're coming from exactly. I'm trying to park away from other people. Even this, I can see where it kind of looks like I rubbed against a bush. But it's annoying me because I worked my ass off. I spent $20,000 on a vehicle, and it's already got all these scratches on them. Most are, minor, and from a distance you can't really see them, but you get up on them and they're there, like this one. But I think that one was there already. That's one of the worst ones, but again, I think that one was there when I bought the truck. That one came from the garbage man. He threw the bin right at it. I watched him hit it. So I politely went up to him and said, listen, you hit my truck with throwing the can. Can you just be more careful, please? I was polite about it. He even asked nicely, do you want me to call this in to my boss and have it taken care of? I said, for this little scratch, man, don't worry about it. Just be more careful in the future, and it's all good. So we left it at that. We never had a problem again. This area almost looks like somebody tried to put a jimmy through the door and break into here. People's cars have been getting broken into in this town and stolen recently, and it's happened on this block a few times already. So I almost have a feeling somebody tried to break into this vehicle. That's why I saw the wrong in my ways the other day when I released that film of that cop rolling past me, looking at me. Crime's been on the rise in this area, so I kind of get where he was coming from, looking in to see what was going on. So I took that down, because I mean they are just trying to do their job and keep the communities safe. So I went a little bit. I know I was wrong for getting as mad as I did. But it wasn't that one instance, okay? If it was that one instance, you wouldn't have heard me get upset. It's a build-up, a series of events that happen over a period of time that got me to where I am as far as cops in this town are concerned. When I was younger, I used to get pulled over all the time. I used to get tickets like crazy. They would throw the book at me. There's kids flying around in these fast, loud cars now, act really recklessly, and it seems like they're not doing anything about it. I've seen them lately, parked around here, stopped, like they're waiting for them, but unfortunately, the days they come and wait, they're not around. Yeah, I almost think somebody tried to break into this thing. I'm gonna have to show my family member this, but that's not cool. Because that's right about where the latch would have been. Looks like somebody tried to get in there. Huh. That's why I have cameras on the vehicle, but you know, I run them sometimes when the thing's parked, but I can't run them full time. And even if I did, at some point, footage is going to start getting written over. You know what I mean? It can't film. Let's just put it this way. Whenever I'm driving, that thing's always on. If I think something might go down, that camera's on for sure. There's other cameras on this property, but I wouldn't know what night to look back at to see if somebody tried to jimmy open the door, and who knows if it even happened here. So I can't point fingers at anybody. Only thing I can tell you is if you buy a new vehicle in New Jersey, don't expect it to stay scratch-free. It's not going to happen. No matter how hard you try, it's not going to happen. I did that. A lot of it's me. A lot of it could have been my keys or my belt buckle. Like, that might have been me. It's just a shame, though. Like I said, when you work your ass off and you spend $20K on a vehicle and you start seeing this, not after even less than a year, it kind of grinds on your nerves a little bit. I mean, I just went through the car wash. For all I know, the car wash machine did that. Who the heck knows? You don't know. You know what I mean? Most of this was here already. When I first got the vehicle, I took pictures of every scratch. This way, when I got more of them, I would know when it was new. But I don't see anything major that stands out. Nothing that looks malicious or on purpose. So they were all done probably erroneously or by mistake or by accident. So I can't point fingers or get mad at anybody. If I get one and it looks like it was done on purpose, then I'm gonna roll the camera back and we're gonna deal with it. We're gonna deal with the person. So, all right, well, we're gonna leave that here. I gotta get to it. It's supposed to rain a little later, which kind of sucks. It's a beautiful day, but it's always got to rain on me. So, but everything's in bloom. It's a beautiful day. It's gonna be a good year. All right, so I'll see you on the next one.